I was 50 feet away from the headquarters of the largest electronics smuggling ring in the city, and the only reason I am sitting here today is because I didn't knock on that door. It started with my phone being ripped out of my hands on a Tuesday afternoon. Nothing special about that day. Crowded Market Street, everyone moving fast, nobody looking at anyone. And then that feeling, you know the one, that cold wave that starts in your stomach when you reach for something that isn't there anymore. I checked every pocket, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Gone. Now most people do what I almost did. File a report, cancel the SIM, buy a new phone, move on. But I had something on that device, something I could not replace, something I could not risk ending up in the wrong hands. So, instead of walking to the police station, I walked back to my apartment, opened my laptop, and I started hunting. The first thing I did was find my device. Standard tool. Everyone knows it. And I expected one of 2 things. Either the phone would be offline, powered down the second they took it, or it would show a location somewhere nearby. A back alley, a car park, somewhere a pickpocket would go to wipe a device and sell it. But what I saw on that screen was neither of those things. The phone was on, not just on, moving, fast, deliberate, not wandering like someone walking casually through the city. This was someone driving, with a very specific destination in mind. And I watched that dot cross the city, in real time, until it stopped, in the industrial district, port area, warehouse zone. I noted the address and told myself, I am just going to look this up quickly, just a little background check, just to know what I am dealing with before I call anyone. That decision changed the next 72 hours of my life. Now I need to explain something quickly, because this is where it gets technical. But stay with me because this part matters. There is a method called OSINT, open source intelligence. It sounds complicated. It is not. It basically means using publicly available information. Property records, business registrations, satellite images, forum activity, all legal, all accessible to anyone with a laptop and patience. And what I found about that warehouse address in the first 30 minutes of searching should have made me close the laptop immediately. The warehouse had been registered under 6 different business names in less than 3 years. Electronics import, logistics solutions, parts distribution, recycling services, all legitimate sounding, all completely paper thin. And the current registered owner was a shell company whose registered address was a mailbox at a postal store. I should have stopped there, called the police, given them the address, and gone to bed. I did not stop there, because then I found the EMA trail. And everything changed. Every phone has an EMA number, International Mobile Equipment Identity, a unique 15-digit fingerprint that belongs to your specific device and never changes, even if someone factory resets it, even if they swap the SIM. The EMA stays. It is the one thing they cannot erase. I had mine saved in an old email. Most manufacturers tell you to do this when you set up a device. Most people never bother. I bothered, and that number led me somewhere I was not prepared for. There are parts of the internet where stolen electronics are traded like commodities. I am not going to give specific locations, because these are not safe places to go browsing out of curiosity, but using a VPN and a secured browser. I searched for my EMA across several of these platforms, and I found it, listed for sale, 4 hours after it was stolen from my hand. But the listing was not for a second-hand phone. It was broken down by components, screen assembly, camera module, battery, processor. They were not planning to resell my phone. They were planning to dismantle it completely, because a phone worth $800 on the resale market can yield $1,400 in individual components when sold to the right buyers. Multiply that by hundreds of phones per week, and you start to understand the scale. But then I looked at the seller profile behind the listing, and my stomach dropped. This account had completed over 300 verified transactions. In 8 months, 300 phones. Minimum. This was not someone stealing phones for quick cash. This was a business. A very organized, very profitable, very deliberate business. I made a decision at this point that I am not proud of. Instead of going straight to the authorities with what I had, I created a fake buyer profile and sent a message to the seller, asked about my specific device, framed it as a casual buyer inquiry. I know what you are thinking, and you are right. I should not have done it. Within 20 minutes, I had a response. The specs they described matched my phone exactly, down to a small scratch on the camera lens, from 3 weeks before it was stolen. But they also asked me something back. Casually, conversationally, they asked how I found this specific listing. I closed the browser immediately, but 14 minutes later, my personal email received a message. Not the fake account email, my personal email, that I had never connected to any of this. The message had no text, just a photograph taken from outside my apartment building. That same evening, they had found my real identity in 14 minutes, and they wanted me to know it. I sat with the lights off for 2 hours, thinking about what my next move was, and then my tablet received a notification. My phone's location had moved again, heading toward the port, and something in me, something I still cannot fully explain rationally, decided I needed to see it with my own eyes. So I got in a cab, and I followed the dot. I want to be clear about something before I tell you what happened next. I was not going to confront anyone. I told myself I just needed to see the location, get eyes on it, confirm what I suspected, then call the authorities with something concrete. That was the plan. What actually happened was different. The cab dropped me 2 streets away. I walked the rest, and I found myself crouching behind a rusted shipping container. At 2 a.m., in the pouring rain, 20 meters ahead of me, 4 men were loading identical sealed crates into a container the size of a house. Organized, fast, practiced, not the chaotic energy of people doing something opportunistic. This was a routine they had done many times before. I counted the crates I could see. 47. If each crate held even 20 phones, that was nearly 1,000 devices in a single container. At the profit margins I had already calculated, that one container represented somewhere between $1 and $2 million, and it was one of several being processed that night. I took photographs on my tablet, and then I noticed something that made every hair on my body stand up. My phone, which had been on since the moment it was stolen, 31 hours ago, was still showing a full battery signal on my linked tablet. 31 hours. No charge. Still full. Now I am not an engineer, but I know what a phone battery does after 31 hours of GPS broadcasting. It dies, unless someone is keeping it powered, unless someone plugged it in, specifically, deliberately, to keep the location signal active. And in that moment, crouching in the rain behind that container, everything I thought I understood about the last 72 hours flipped completely. I thought I had been hunting them, following their trail, closing in on them, but they had processed hundreds of stolen phones before mine. They knew exactly how tracking worked. They knew that someone who had AMA information and enough technical knowledge to find their listing was not a casual victim. They kept that phone powered, broadcasting a clean signal straight to a location they controlled. They were not running from me. They had never been running from me. The phone was bait. I was standing inside their trap, and then one of the men turned and looked directly at the container I was hiding behind. I do not know if he heard something. I do not know if they had a perimeter alert, but he looked at exactly where I was standing and said something to the others. I ran. I did not look back. I did not think. I just ran through the port complex, through the rain, for what felt like forever, until I hit the main road. flagged down the first car I saw, got in, and said drive. The next morning, I walked into the economic crimes unit of the local police force with every piece of documentation I had collected, the OSINT research, the forum listings with timestamps, the AMA match evidence, the shell company registration trail, the photograph sent to my personal email, the port photographs from my tablet, the battery data showing deliberate powering of the device. The officer I spoke to did not look surprised. He looked like someone who had been waiting for exactly this kind of documentation. He told me that operations like this are extremely difficult to prosecute without evidence of the physical infrastructure. What I had given him was a paper trail, combined with photographic evidence of the loading operation. He also told me something that I think about often. He said that this syndicate had a known pattern of keeping stolen devices powered after acquisition, specifically targeting anyone who demonstrated sophisticated tracking capability, because someone who could trace an AMA to a dark web listing and run OSINT on a shell company was either law enforcement or a serious problem. Either way, they wanted to know who you were. The photograph outside my apartment was not a random intimidation tactic. It was identification. They were building a file on me, the same way I had been building a file on them. I got lucky, genuinely lucky, that I ran when I did. I never got the phone back. But here is what I want you to take from this, because this is the part that actually matters. Every single vulnerability they exploited in this operation is one you can close right now, before something like this touches your life. Save your AMA number tonight. Not tomorrow. Tonight. Go to your phone settings, find the AMA, screenshot it, email it to yourself. It takes 45 seconds, and it becomes your most powerful recovery tool if you ever need it. Enable remote wipe on every device you own. If I had wiped that phone the moment it was taken, there would have been nothing on it worth protecting, and I would never have gone down this path. Settings, security, remote wipe, 45 seconds, and use a VPN when you are doing any kind of sensitive investigation online. The speed at which they traced my fake account to my personal identity told me they had serious technical capability. A proper no-logs VPN puts a wall between your online activity and your real identity. The one I personally use is linked below. It is what I now run on every device without exception. The digital world and the physical criminal world are not separate anymore. They share infrastructure, they share methods, and they are far more organized than most people realize. I was 50 feet away from their headquarters, and I walked away, not because I was smart enough, but because I was lucky enough. Do not leave your safety to luck. See you in the next one.